Hi everyone, Rick Bray with Broom Tile Gaboses, and I just wanted to take a few minutes to introduce you to your new Promethean boards. Now, one thing that's important to note is unlike your smart boards, Promethean boards kind of have two sides to them. One side is where they can project your desktop or your laptop or your Chromebook in a way similar to how smart boards would with touch interactivity. The other side is this, where there's an Android system built into the board, so it more or less works on its own. And we'll see some of those more in just a second. But the first thing I want to show are just a few of these buttons down here at the bottom. The first button you'll notice is the power button. That's how I can turn the screen on and off. The next button in that I see is a fire emblem. It's Promethean's logo. And when I click that, that brings up this dock. We'll see more on that later. There's also volume up, volume down, and the arrow pointing into the rectangle box. That's where you can switch your source. When I push that button, we'll see the dock comes up, it goes to source, and I can pick a different source. Awesome. Another thing that you'll notice probably comes with your screen is a stylus. You can use this stylus to write on the screen. The advantage is there's no technology built into this stylus. So you can use that or you can use your hands, whichever you prefer. Now, one thing that's definitely different than your smart boards is these Promethean boards support multiple touch points. So what I mean is with your smart board, you could write and that was fine. With Promethean boards, they support more touch. So you'll notice I can have more points of touch. In fact, I can have lots of points of touch. I'm not sure what the magic number is, but probably more than the number of students that you can fit in your screen. Just so that you know, the way the touch works, there's a thin line that goes around the screen, around what's called the bezel, and that puts out an infrared network of beams, basically. And whereas smartboards had to touch in order to make the active point happen, Promethean boards, you just have to cross that line. So that means you don't actually have to touch the board to get it to draw. Where that's going to become important is if you have clothing that sticks out from your arm, it's possible that your clothing can write on the screen without you actually touching it. So just something to be mindful of. Let's head back to that home screen for a second. So you also have a remote that comes with your Promethean TV, and we'll talk about that more in just a second. Now, this dock that you saw, I can get to that by pressing on the Promethean logo button at the bottom. I can also, you'll notice there's an arrow down here. I can tap that or swipe up from the bottom. There's also one on the left side of your screen and the right side of your screen. They're all the same, it's just accessible from different points. When we look at that, the back button will take you back. The locker is where you can store files on that Android back of the Promethean board. Home will always take you to this screen. The whiteboard you saw earlier, that's similar to how we had in Smart Notebook, where I have a whiteboard. I have a palette here that I can draw from in terms of different colors, different markers, different math tools, some different ideas that are there. But one thing we do want to make sure I showcase with you is this little button. It's the third one from the top. It looks like two people separated by a line. Where that becomes really handy, let's erase all this stuff first. When I tap on that split window, you'll notice I now have a vertical line separating my Promethean board, and I have two different spaces. And you may say, oh great, big deal, I could have done that before. But that also gives two separate palettes, which means two people or more could be up at this screen working independently and not have to pick between the same color palette over here. So it offers a little bit more options in that regard. Some other things we have down here in the dock, we have capture, where it's going to take a screenshot of the image that's on the board and save it to the storage space within the board. We have annotate, which is a really awesome tool. Think about it like this whiteboard, except it's anywhere. So it brings up this little dock station that I can move by tapping on the colored bar of the window and moving it around. And again, I can draw on any surface. So think of that like maybe your smart ink layer. And I can get rid of it by just clicking the little X, and that will close it out. We also have source. This is where, when I click on that source option, if you have other things plugged into your Promethean board, this is where they'll come through. So in this case, my computer is HDMI 2, and you'll notice now I can access my computer files, and this is just like if it was a smart notebook, smart board. I have the ability to touch these and open them up just like I would have before. And again, that's by clicking Source and selecting my option. I can also click the Source button on the bottom of the screen and get there as well. But that's how you can switch back. Again, Home will always take us back to this screen. Now let's talk for a second about the remote. I'm going to superimpose an image here of the remote onto this screen, and what you'll see is there's three little lines. Those three little lines, that brings up the dock on your screen, and it will bring it up on the bottom. And I believe we can use, there's a directional pad, but that's not active here. Another option, the next button down, is your source button. And what's nice about that one, if we move this away, when I click that, it brings up the source here. It just kind of avoids some clicks, which is really nice. And you'll notice I didn't touch the screen, but it changed because of that network of infrared beam. Okay, awesome. The next option down is a box with an X through it. That's going to black out your screen as a way of maybe getting your students' attention and focusing on you, not so much the screen, or perhaps you want to hide what's up there because you're setting things up. Click that button again to bring it back. Alternatively, the last button is a snowflake that you'll see brings up a small snowflake on the screen itself, and that's a freeze. So the idea being, let's see, if I go to a different source, there we go, and I go to my computer, if I tell the screen to freeze, now when I go over to my computer and change things, like maybe I close this file and I open up this file, you don't see it because the screen is frozen, but when I unfreeze it, now you can see that change happen. Oh, what a cute picture. Yep, that was a shameless plug. Ah, yes, coming in post-production, because I almost forgot about these inputs at the front of your screen. Specifically, these two on the right. These are going to be really useful if you want to have student work put up out of this Promethean board. The one is an HDMI cord. You'll want to make sure you talk to the IT department to get the right cables for these, but by hooking in the HDMI into a student device and then selecting the appropriate source, you can now have your student work show up on this screen. Additionally, right next to it is an input for touch. If you connect both of those lines, the HDMI and the touch, to the student device, what you should find is that not only will the student work appear up here, but their device will also support touching this screen, controlling their device. So just another input feature of these Promethean boards. So there you go. That's a brief introduction to your Promethean boards. As we learn more about them, we will certainly share that information with you. But by all means, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at rbray@btboces.org. And thanks for watching.